Welcome to Stu and the Nunn, an online radio show and podcast focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We're here to give you an honest opinion, a different perspective, and hopefully a few laughs. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on the show chat room, via our Facebook page, and on Twitter. We would like to thank those who make this show possible and allow us to bring it to you. Our show sponsors, Muay Media Solutions, BlueHammer.com, Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation, Graybeard Publishing, and of course, Sheepdog Response. We would also like to recognize some of our favorite nonprofit charities who are doing great things for those who have served this country of ours. Veterans Outdoors, Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation, PinUpsForVets.com, and the Lauren F. Bruner USS Arizona Memorial Foundation. To learn more about these nonprofits and how you can donate to their awesome causes, visit our website at www.stuandthenunn.com. That's right, everyone. Welcome back to the first episode 2020 of Stu and the Nunn. This is episode 186. We are in the house tonight. We got Stu here in the northern studio, Nunn in the southern studio, as you see to my right, your left, or one of those ways. But anyways, Toby, welcome, brother. 2020.
Welcome to 2020, my dude. Here we are. It's Thursday. We're 2 days into it, and we're already like basically on time, and changing our wayward tardiness ways. No, it's awesome. I had a great holidays. I'm super excited to talk about it. So much going on, but I just love the beginning of the year just because everyone's energy is so hype. Everyone's hyphy. Everyone's excited. Everyone's motivated. I wish it was something that we could replicate every quarter and just get people re-energized for life, be it their health, be it their, whatever,
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I'm really excited about tonight's show, though.
I am
one
too.
of my favorite people on.
We have tonight's guest is the first of many we have lined up. Thanks to our Rob, our unpaid producer, who has racked and stacked them like freaking like fast movers over the battlefield. We have got guests just ready to go, and what a way to kick off the start of the year.
2020 is the year he gets paid. Let's just say that.
Is that what it is?
I don't know if we're gonna pay him in money, but 2020 is the year he gets paid.
We'll definitely throw him some swag. Hey, I do want to point out, when we were setting up for the show, I looked in my camera view and I noticed behind me, and I turned around and I was like, I still got my 2019 Gina calendar up, and I'm thinking I'm slacking. And then I looked over your shoulder, and I'm thinking, Do you have a 2020 yet? I don't have. Do you believe?
Yeah, I do. I have. I'm looking for the envelope. I
don't have my 2020.
Usual, I'll give you one because I buy 5 every year.
Look at you. I need to get my 20. I looked and I was like, not that the women aren't beautiful, and I could just keep looking. I keep looking at number 2015, 16, 17, but yeah. So Gina's bouncing.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm like,
Thailand.
I need to. You just. Pointed out a deficiency in my office.
She's putting up some beautiful pictures from Thailand, so I can't wait. Hopefully she doesn't see this for a while that I don't have her calendar, but she probably knows I don't. Right. So, anyways,
let's get started because my man's been sitting there being quiet and diligent and patient.
He has.
But
so why don't you spool him up and intro him in, and I'll bring him on the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, tuning in to Stu and the Nunn tonight. We have a special guest, the very first guest of 2020. I'm not Barbara Walters, but I will be commiserating, obliterating, and manifesting with my main man, Staff Sergeant Aaron Rapoza, weighing in at lightweight for Muay Thai, light heavyweight, I would say, for real life. But my man Aaron and I go back to the Fort Hood Fight Club days. He was down there working for a couple of cats we know. A guy by the name of Colton Smith. Maybe you remember him. Chris Perkins. You remember him? A couple cats like that. Tim Ferriss and the players. Look at him. He's now on screen. You're now live, Aaron. And everyone can see you rocking that E9 shirt. Also notice that tonight's episode brought to you by Enlisted 9 Fight Company. And let's talk, bro. Like, how you been?
Hey, it's an honor, and I'm humbled to be on your guys' show. I've been following you guys for quite some time, and like you mentioned in the intro, one of my mentors and my leaders, Sergeant First Class Colton Smith. We go way back, and I've seen him on the show, and because of him and people like Tim Ferriss, I've been afforded the opportunity to have met somebody like yourself. I got to attend the Mighty Oaks, where we first connected, and had a bond, and from there it just flourished, and we've continued to maintain communications and contact with each other, even though I've transitioned from Fort Hood, Texas. I went to Korea, and now I'm here at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State.
Well, I'm super excited. You're at JLBM, also known as Lewis. So I went from Korea to Lewis. You went from Korea to Lewis. I love how you're doing that. They've kind of changed things. I go to Lewis a lot. It's by far, no offense, to Fort Hood, but Fort Lewis is my favorite place in the entire Army. And I just, mainly because I'm an outdoorsman, I like to fish. It's close to Canada, so I feel at home when I'm not. And I love Fort Lewis just because it's just a beautiful base, and because it's the home of the Strikers. And if you want a dynamic military force, you can go to the 82nd, you can go to the 101st, but that's a force. It's not a dynamic force. And when you get to Fort Lewis, the only thing on Fort Lewis is pipe-hitting meat eaters. Like, it is the coolest base on earth, and it's the best kept secret. I'm putting it on blast right now. I probably shouldn't. I should probably keep my mouth shut so people don't go there. But it's like home of 1st Special Forces Group, 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, and now the 7th Infantry Division's Ghost and Lancer Brigades. And there's nothing.
Hold on a second. Are they wearing the crushed beer can division patch again? Like 7th ID?
No. They're wearing a hybrid. They're wearing a hybrid.
Affiliate with 2ID patch.
Oh, okay.
They still got old Chief. Got old Chief, and then they got a little thing above it. It's a little hybrid thing they got going. But man, I dig it, man. And I go up there every year, quite a few times a year. I launch, not I, but my boys and I do a reunion trip every year up there. And seeing you involved up there is cool. One of the reasons it's cool is because so when I was getting involved in combatives with the Army, Sergeant First Class Larson was still a Sergeant First Class. He was still in, right? And he was doing it through Ranger Regiment. When I went to Korea, I was in up north there in what we used to call the No Smile Zone. They brought the Gracies in to give us, a little bit of an education. It was mandatory. Everyone took Taekwondo. I think you had to get a minimum of brown belt or something while you were there, or a minimum of orange. But in the infantry, it was expected for you to hit brown. So you're doing all this Taekwondo stuff. And I was really blessed. I had one of the national Taekwondo team members as one of my Katusas. So we were Taichung Chubiing it up. It was awesome. But then I, was learning about combatives. They brought the Gracies over, and that was the only Army school I ever attended that I wanted to quit. That was the first time, as an infantryman, that I've ever contemplated, what am I really doing here? I'm not happy. I want to quit. And that was because they were ripping my body apart. And so, relax, friend, relax. God, it's good. Relax. And I'm like, no, it's not. My shoulders shouldn't be doing this. I feel like the muscles weren't designed this way. God did not intend for me to be a human pretzel. And no, it was a really cool experience. And I went to Fort Lewis, and there were a couple of guys that felt the same passion that I felt, that I was getting invigorated for. And remember, this is 2002, right? So
oh, that's early on. That's where
combatives
got.
So
big.
First Army, that's when the first Modern Army Combative.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so like a couple of us, got selected to go and like take this course, and we were super excited for it. And because I was excited for it because I was a tiny little dude, right? I'm like a big fat guy right now, but back in the day, I was only like 150, and like I was always getting my ass handed to me by like these big dudes. And now all of a sudden there's this skill set that's available to me that's like the equalizer. And I was like super motivated, super excited for it. And, and I was kind of getting in at the ground floor of it. Like the unconventional side have had it, and the spec family had it for a little bit. But us conventional guys, it's just regular line, straight infantry dudes. This was like new, and it was exciting, and getting in on the ground floor, that was awesome. And, we had some really cool fighters there, guys that were like, we had this dude named Hansen. We called him Ninja Hansen. And that, he's kind of grown up and become pretty popular in the combatives world. Like this dude was doing underground knife fights in Vancouver on the weekend. Like this dude is like savage.
He's the OG of Joint Base Lewis McChord.
He is the OG. And he was like, we were in the same company. So we were in the same company. And like, when I got there, like that's who was like, hey, let's go fight. And I was like, okay. And, and he was like, hey, we need to go meet this guy named Dennis Hallman. We need to go meet this guy. I'm drawing a blank on the old big dude's name. He ended up like protesting us, and it got super awkward. Munson. Like it was super neat to experience it. Now, they had Combatives 1. Then there was Combatives 1 and 2. Then there was Combatives 1, 2, and 3. And when I went to ANOC, 3 was like this really cool course where you could learn how to like, run tournaments. Now there's like, I don't know, there's probably Combatives 20 by now. But, it's like the whole system, it changed the dynamic of the force. And it changed the dynamic of the force because now you have this extracurricular activity that is really important, and it was team building. And I remember like the first combatives tournament I went to, and I was like, dude, this is so cool. And, even when I got out, like I'd go to Fort Hood and watch Perkins and everyone running the combative tournaments at Fort Hood, because I was like, this is the only place where you can see two people like be truly like cool with each other and then go like try and destroy each other in a few seconds, and like be good sports about it, be perfect, like, and like be prideful of it, not like crazy. Like this isn't some bar where they're doing fat burners, like, no, it was like legit training. And you have kind of been raised from a junior member all the way, now you're a staff sergeant. You've been raised in the system. You've been privy to all the doctrine, the amendments to the doctrine. You've been part of those amendments. And let's go. Let's talk about the Army. Let's talk about the combative system. You guys, how the tournaments are running, everything. Let's go. Let's talk combatives.
Yeah, and just hearing you talk about, the history behind your participation with the combatives program, how it formulated, how it's reinvigorated, all that stuff. The combatives program, today's modern day is a lot more, has evolved a lot. We've sat down, the committee members have sat down, and we've restructured a lot of things that are different than when obviously Matt Larson and all those guys put it into play. However, Matt Larson is the godfather of combatives, so we always take guidance and we always take leadership from him and input from him on the direction that the combatives program should continue to grow. So, having people, in the position like himself, people like Tim Ferriss, Tim just retired. He is the original mentor and leader that took me under his wing and kind of gave me the opportunity at such a young soldier to become what I am today. Him and Colton Smith are, the path pavers that structured me to know what the standard is and what right looks like. And that's kind of what I've been continuing to do and continuing to build in my legacy in the combatives community. But, you know, it's never about self-recollection and recognition. It's about what I can do to continue to enforce and influence the program in the Army, because, you know, multiple times there's been a dying venture of combatives. You know, a lot of people under prioritize the importance of the skill set that we are trying to emphasize within these soldiers and that we're trying to teach them. And, you know, there's so many other structural things that leaders base everyday training off of, and combatives is not one of them. So it's a continuous battle for, you know, ambassadors of the program like myself to continue the legacy of the program, and you know, not only to just teach combatives. That's not what it's all about. You know, we're not, like I tell everybody, and every time I talk about combatives, it's more of how you articulate the program and what you can bring to the table to enforce the importance of the training. It's not about, we're not trying to build fighters. I mean, yeah, we teach fighting tactics, but we're giving these soldiers a set of skill sets, whether it's basic skill sets in the basic combatives course, or whether it's an advanced skill set in the tactical combatives course. And then, you know, in today's Army, we no longer have level 3 and 4. We have a combatives master trainer course, which is now a consolidated course that took 3 and 4, which is 4 weeks each. So a total of 8 weeks, and consolidated down to 1 4-week course to give you that instructor capability to train and certify soldiers in both your basic and tactical combatives course, also known as your level 1 and 2.
Aaron, let me ask you real quick, for those that maybe just don't know about the combatives program, a couple questions. One, it sounds like it's kind of prioritized based on the commander's wish list and intent. It's not really an Army-wide program, is it? Is it kind of fallen off the mainstream, if you would, from a few years ago?
Great question.
I mean, to me, it's commander's discretion in today's world because of how the MOI and POI was built for the combatives master trainer. So every company is supposed to have a combatives master trainer. When they first came out with the course, you know, there was a big influx of people getting certified. So what started to happen, and as you guys can see if you follow the combatives programs in the Army now, a lot of installation combatives programs are getting shut down. And, you know, it's getting filtered down to the unit organizations to pretty much host and conduct combative certifications within their own unit organizations. So, yes, support is a big thing, but, I mean, combatives is still a military school. I mean, it's still, you know, an Army-wide program.
Do you know if commanders have it on their YTG? Do they have it on their yearly training guidance? Are they required to do so many weeks or have so many hours of combatives training in their yearly training? No, I don't know if that's at a division level or
yeah,
or
there's
higher.
been a big discretion with that, because according to 350-1, you were supposed to have, you know, quarterly, annual, biannual training of combatives. So I believe it's like 12 to 15 hours or something like that. Now, are units actually doing it? No. And I feel personally, being a part of the combatives program and the combatives community, a lot of the reason why combatives is not portrayed or being conducted as frequently as needed is because, you know, a lot of these soldiers or, you know, leaders, they're not proficient in this skill set in order to, you know, to stand up there and teach, you know, their subordinates. You know, it's a lot, teaching combatives is a lot different than reading off of a PowerPoint slide on, you know, sergeant's time training, or, you know what I mean? You know, all these other mandatory trainings, safety stand downs, and all this stuff that we have, you know, it's quite different. And to be honest, a lot of these leaders are not combative certified.
That's what I'm wondering, if these leaders that are coming up, you know, back when combatives kind of came out in early to mid to 2000s, it was the wars were, much more active. There were things going on. We were in really gritty, dirty combat in the streets of Baghdad and even Kandahar and Kabul. And I was wondering if, they saw the importance of it, but now the new levels of leaders come, those that were not even in IOBC back then as officers or in the NCO Corps, who are now our mid to, high level company level leadership are just, they think it was just a flavor of the day. Do they think it just wasn't that applicable? I don't know what your opinion on that or what you're seeing or hearing.
Man, I don't think, to be honest, when we talk about the higher echelons, and that's where we get our main support for combatives, I think the only time that they affiliate themselves with combatives is, combatives tournaments. And when they have that perception and that vision and they hear about combatives, they think about like what Toby was saying earlier, two soldiers competing and fighting, you know what I mean? So number one, does it raise red flags when it comes to risk assessment? Yes, because in competition, you're going to have those risks. But at the same time, if you have proficient and efficient referees, we can, it's our job to mitigate those risks of injuries. We can't control everything, but that's like saying, you go to airborne school. Airborne school is going to be a lot more safe than doing airborne operations at a unit organization. It's just the structure behind everything and how you maintain and operate your type of training that's going to mitigate these risks, and, a lot of today's Army, they just don't do combatives enough. And to me, that's the reason why our program's continuing to dwindle and take the back seat and opposed to all these other things, and I can speak for a lot of people here, especially at Joint Base Lewis McChord. I'm in 2nd Striker Brigade Combat Team, and I hate to say it, but this is a very high intensity post for training. These soldiers are always in the field, whether it's Yakima, whether it's NTC, you got bayonet focus, you got warfighter coming up. You got all these planned exercises that is their primary focus, and soldiers are always on the go, that they're not given and afforded the opportunity to do other trainings, and I tell every soldier that comes through my combatives program and they get trained and taught, you can incorporate combatives training at any point in time. You have these first sergeants, you have these commanders, you have these platoon sergeants that are all about, hey, we got to ruck, we got to run, we got to do all this 3 to 4 times a week. That's cool. All right. When we come back from our ruck, let's drop sack. Let's first 2 people back, shake hands, and let's grapple. Let's see if you have the intestinal fortitude when you're tired and drained to be able to still defend yourself. Because what's going to happen when you're in a firefight for multiple hours and then you got to go clear a room? You know what I mean? Yeah. Are you still going to have that willingness to close with the enemy and finish the fight, which is our primary objective and our motto in the combatives community? Yeah. And a lot of these soldiers, they don't have that. The combatives program is built, with hand-to-hand combat, but that's us enforcing the importance of the skill set of hand-to-hand when your primary weapon is not of use. Soldiers are comfortable with pulling the trigger. But what happens when you pie that corner, or what happens when you turn and somebody blitzes you and you don't have that reaction time to get that weapon up and be able to engage based on your sector of fire, situational awareness, friendlies, all these other emphasis that are incorporated with whatever scenario you may encounter? Are you going to have the skill set, the mindset, the mental, physical toughness to close with the enemy and do what you need to do to ultimately create that space and range control and get back to your primary weapon system so that you can engage with the target?
Luckily for you, you guys need we got the great example of our good friend Dave Bellavia, right? And just recently received the Medal of Honor in June. The only living recipient out of Iraq, and his battle, what he received it for was killing 4 bad dudes in a house. One, hand-to-hand grappling. If he knew a little bit more combatives, it may not have been such a tough fight for him. Dave and I have talked about this, but what a great example to hold up, because his name is so popular out there, and take that section of the book house to house and have people read that and say, look, it's not something that was done in the trenches of World War I or World War II or even Korea or in the Chosin Valley, but hey, this happens in the combat we see today that you may, and you gave a great example, right? And Dave's story is they are clearing house to house in Fallujah in 04. You go into a house and all of a sudden you find yourself being the only person in there, and then when you lose your weapon systems, you are literally using everything you can, from a sappy plate to a Gerber tool, to kill somebody, right? So I think I don't know if you guys have tapped into that, but I think there's not a better example, a current better example than that. What do you think, Toby?
No, absolutely. I think Dave's story is a great story. You got other high profile guys with similar stories. The only female with a silver star, so there's a lot of great stories that can relate. But I want to rewind a little bit. Before I rewind a little bit, I want to give a shout out to the first of the 23rd Tomahawks at Fort Lewis, because you should follow them on Facebook. If you don't, you're missing out, because the last Tomahawk 6, the battalion commander of the 1st Battalion of the 23rd Infantry, used to take guys, and they would do these brutal 12-mile, like high-paced, not like faster than the EIB. Like, he would just break his guys off on these 12-milers, and they'd end in the sawdust pit. And it was like every company put up guys, and it was like, and they just would come through, and they would be like, you go, and and they did. They dropped rucksacks, and there's a couple great videos out there of them doing it, and I shared it a couple times, and Tim Kennedy reposted it and shared it, because that's the right attitude to have. And the reason I'm giving them a shout out is because I'm going to circle back. Fort Lewis, being a base of nothing but pipe hitters and meat eaters, is great, because you're insulated from some of the politics of other bases. And the reason I say that is the politics of other bases, like the garrison commander at Fort Hood, Texas. I don't know who he is, or she. I could be wrong, but I don't know who the garrison commander of Fort Hood currently is. However, the chances of the garrison commander of Fort Hood, Texas, being an infantryman is probably low. When you look at all these garrison commands, so these officers, they might not be meat eaters, they might not be pipe hitters. They're guys that are in different branches, different, soft skills, that have done well and been promoted, very deserving of their position. But when they're doing their budgeting and they're looking at all these different things, like, their mind isn't on closing the distance, seeking a dominant position, and finishing the fight. Their mind's on, like, I got to make sure I got this family advocacy program. I got to make sure that I got this daycare. I got to make sure that, and budgeting wise, like, for them, it is not uppermost in their mind. And this is the tragedy, because we get so focused on the Directorate of Community Activities. We get so, at which I worked for the DCA. I worked for the DCA at Fort Hood. It was a wonderful program. And the DCA at Fort Hood in the Directorate of Community Activities, MWR, gave up an entire gym, an MWR gym, so that there could be a fight house. So, like, in their defense, they did do that.
No longer there anymore.
Yeah, but it got yanked back. But that's a command issue, right? And that is like one of the challenges that this program, how important it is. Now, not only is it a team building event, not only is it a force multiplier, not only is it combat essential, not just effective, it is combat essential. And it should be combat essential for anybody. MPs, anyone, dealing in detainee ops, anyone dealing in anything on the battlefield. And everyone knows that, you know, like, because we hear it all the time, because everyone's like, well, basically we were infantry. Like, if I had $1 for every time someone said like, I'm basically infantry, because they were doing tasks that were in direct contact of the 7 forms of contact, not just direct contact, but the 7 forms of contact with the enemy. You know, like cooks could find themselves in a position where they needed to fight, and like we're not preparing them.
It's funny that you bring that up because, you know, in today's combatives world, you know, if you look at the history behind, you know, starting at Ranger Bat, then getting filtered down to infantry schools and stuff like that, you know, a lot of your all Army champions as of current are support MOSs now. You know, the support world is slowly taking over. You know, and a lot of these guys are skilled, obviously, within their career fields, but skilled in combatives. You know, and kind of rewind back to what you were saying about, you know, commander's discretion. You know, I believe, to be honest, I believe that my journey has continued, and I've been a combative instructor for so long because it's how you propose and how you articulate combatives that's going to get your greatest outcome. You know, it's you don't have to be, you know, like the great Command Sergeant Major Fuentes at Fort Hood. You don't have to be a UFC fighter to be a combatives instructor. Some of the best instructors in the world are non-competitive, you know, combatants. Right. You know, one of my mentors,
this great NCOs.
Exactly. One of my biggest mentors and somebody that I looked up to in the combatives community was, you know, Bradley Cannon. You know, he's obviously retired now, but, you know, he was one of the greatest instructors that I ever met. I mean, he did jujitsu and stuff like that. And he trained, but he, you know, he wasn't a fighter. Like, he didn't, you know, he wasn't going out there in the octagon and fighting and doing fight camps and stuff. But he was one of the best combatives instructors that I've ever come across in my career. And, you know, I think the biggest thing is a lot of combatives programs are failing because of the mindset of the mixed martial arts world in their personal perspective that are being envisioned into their modern Army combatives programs that are taking away from the concept of combatives in the Army. You know, a lot of leadership and NCOICs are turning combatives programs into jiu-jitsu gyms, or, you know what I mean, a place for people to come and train and fight, when that's not going to sell to the commander or the command sergeant major about having a combatives program. And when you talk about pipe hitters, you know, I've been fortunate everywhere I've gone in standing up combatives programs and continuing on, you know, the training and providing this high level training for soldiers because of the support and because of the things that I offer, you know, at the programs and the facilities that I have. You know, here with 2nd Striker Brigade Combat Team, I have, you know, Colonel Jonathan Chung, who is a Ranger Bat guy. I have Command Sergeant Major Mullinax, who is a Ranger Bat guy. Those two are the ones that have afforded me the opportunity to build an establishment on Joint Base Lewis McChord North Fort that have given me, you know, full realm to add this training to the unit organization, and it's been successful. You know, the first time I ever encountered with Colonel Chung, he said, "Hey, Sergeant Rapoza, for Org Day, is it possible that you run a combatives tournament instead of us having ultimate frisbee?" I said, "Of course." So we ran a combatives tournament outdoors.
That's leadership.
In front of families, you know, my friends.
I'm sure the wife and kids loved that.
Exactly, you know, and it was the most viewed and you know, outstanding attendance that people supported and wanted to see. And, You know, like Sergeant Major Mullinax said at my most recent Combatives tournament, it takes a lot for a soldier to compete. Regardless if they know how to fight or not, it takes personal courage. It takes a lot for a soldier to step on those mats and compete in front of in front of everybody, and they might fail at it,
No, like my very first combatives tournament was in Korea, and we weren't that well organized back then, and well, my man Aaron Luling, I'm gonna address something that he just said real fast. When I was this is back in the 90s in the Balkans, I had a commander that, he was all about morale. And we were on this deployment, and he's like, if morale's low, there's probably a reason. And he created the pit. And in the pit, you could call people out. You could, like you were pissed off at somebody, you could call them out. And you went in the pit, you fought it out. And then when it was done, it was done. Like you couldn't talk about it later. Like if you called out your boss, which is something that Aaron just brought up in one of the chat rooms here, like you had to deal with the consequences. When I was a junior member when that happened, I got my corporal stripes while I was there. So like I remember like when I got my corporal stripes, they're like, if you get called out, you're an NCO, you can't lose. And so like I remember the pressure. But then in Korea, I did my very first actual combatives tournament, and the combatives tournament was in its infancy. It was just getting started, and so we were like, and I was the same weight as our brigade commander. His name was Colonel Odom, and I ended up having to like fight this dude, and I was like, oh crap, like I can't punch like the colonel in the face, like, and it was tough because like. Now there was like the that military bearing and like that presence that I was like, oh, this is like, ooh. But like I remember he like whispered in my ear. He was like, if you don't give me what I deserve, like, he was like, basically you're a bitch. And I was like, challenge accepted, sir. Here we go. But then, fighting and training at Fort Lewis, as a squad leader, weapon squad leader, and then becoming a platoon sergeant there in the 1st of the 23rd Tomahawks. It was scary. It was scary as a leader because, like if, one of your Joes jams you up, like now, you've just compromised a part of your military authority. And so, like, I was like, that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna know more than my Joe. And I trained harder because, like, it's just like PT, right? When you stand in front of the formation, you got to do PT better than the people in the formation. Yeah, when you're counting that cadence and you're doing the repetitions to the cadence, man, your form better be spectacular. And I believe that. And as a non-commissioned officer, you had to be. You had to be better than everybody that you were leading. You cannot inspire people to follow you if you are not better. If the art of influencing someone to accomplish a task by purpose, direction, motivation, AKA leadership, you can't do that unless you are pristine and you inspire. And there was a lot of pressure, man. I tell you, like my first combative tournament, I was on like the low end, and where the colonel's like, you better give me what you got. And I was like, well, okay. And then once I got that challenge accepted, I had nothing to lose. But then, a year later, I'm at Fort Lewis, and I'm no longer fighting it was no longer an E6 versus an O6. It's now like an E6 versus an E3. I'm like, oh crap, I better jam this kid up. And I'm just saying, Americana, but it's a winner. It's a winner. But anyway, hey, let's we're jamming through time here. Let's talk about a couple other things.
Yep.
You not only are a great ambassador on base, you are actually a martial artist. You are a Hawaiian. For everyone that's tuning in, we're talking with Staff Sergeant Aaron Rapoza of Fort Lewis, Joint Base Lewis McChord. He's with the 2nd Brigade Strikers there, the Lancers. but hey, you not only like preach, you practice, and you're a wonderful, wonderful ambassador because you're super pro. I've seen you do well. I've seen you put on a great show, and you just not get the outcome that you want. And you know, one of my favorite quotes of all time is a Gracie quote where there's victories and there's lessons, and you've always been humble and modest in your accomplishments, and you've also been humble and modest in your lessons. And you recently just you got a belt, bro, right? You got a
Sure.
strap, some steel, and you got some strap, and you're like, well, players. But you're a warrior by culture. You're Hawaiian. If you go on our website, you can see one of the pictures I have of you is like in the corner, getting talked to in between rounds right before your decisive victory. But man, you are legit Hawaiian. You're not like pretend Hawaiian. You're not like a haole. You're not like a guy that was there for like Troy that goes there on vacation and like does a little bit of computer work. Like you're a legit like Hawaiian. Warrior class. You got the tribal ink on your body, representing your family, representing your culture, representing your people, your nation, and like you not only preach it, you practice it, and you're rocking you're the lightweight Muay Thai champion. What's up, player? Life outside the army as a professional fighter, because you
Yeah,
might have.
man, it's been a journey. There's ups and downs when it comes to the lifestyle of being a combatant, in the civilian sector. It's been a blessing, man, and it's been a humbling experience, to taste defeat and finally win a championship. Was one of the top accomplishments that I've been able to encounter in my short-lived life so far, which is not coming to an end. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fighter. I've always been an enthusiast about it. But it didn't really pop off and start kicking in until I was at Fort Hood, where I surrounded myself with fighters. You know what I mean? And not only are we ambassadors of combatives, and we like to emphasize the importance of hand-to-hand skill sets in the Army, but like you said, I mean, we're competitors at heart. This is a lifestyle that we live. This is what we do. And it's people like Tim Ferriss and Colton Smith and Chris Perkins and, Phil Platt. You got so many people.
Big Daddy Combatives, Phil Platt.
You got Phil Platt. I mean, you got Bubba Kirchner. You got so many, to me, in my eyes, top athletes that filtered through Fort Hood Combatives, and that's where it all started for me. I was a young private that was going through a basic combatives course being taught by Brad Cannon, and I jumped in a vehicle and we went across state to Louisiana, and I got to watch, Ray Rodriguez and Phil Platt as amateurs.
I remember that. Yeah,
man, I want to do this. Like,
yeah.
If you look at pictures back when I first joined the Army, I mean, I played college football, so I came in like all bulky and 232 pounds. And, I had to change my lifestyle if I wanted to compete and last with these guys. And then, I started training with Colton Smith, and I got, the opportunity to train with, people like Jake Hune from Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Now in Australia and fighting for Risen. I got to train with Tim Kennedy, obviously.
No big deal.
And it's been an influx of honor.
I watched y'all roll. This is gonna date me a little bit. You had just got there. Tim Creeder, Crazy Tim out of Lafayette, Louisiana. Dustin Poirier. No, like no, you've had the opportunity to train and roll with some pretty cool cats, man. Like
Yeah, and it's been awesome. It's been a ride. It's been a journey, and I'm super grateful. I got to train with, new and upcoming rising star Jeff Neal out of Strike Kings, and he's out of Forest MMA in Dallas, Texas. He's been knocking dudes out cold, and I had the honor of training with him. I got to train with Lavelle Simpson, who is, up in Colorado now. Jonathan Petit, Jose Johnson, who is just won for Knockout of the Year on UFC Fight Pass from LFA.
Yeah. I forgot about him. I've
got to train with all of them, and I was introduced to Coach Crew Kasib, who kind of changed the game. My first striking coaches were, Sar Major Fuentes and Phil Platt, and we just continued to evolve the program there.
Not bad guys. Yeah,
of course. And back to my journey. I've tasted defeat, and it's been a long road. But being able to come out on top, and it's a little bit hard. I tell everybody it's hard out here because there's gyms out here to train at, but just the level of competition that I was training with in Texas, and just the camaraderie of the families and the bonds that we built, that to me was what training was all about. And I don't have that set of folks and team that I'm able to encounter here in Washington just yet. I have my other two instructors that currently work with me. Got Rafael Brewster. He's a staff sergeant. He's a pro fighter as well. He trains under me. We kind of train each other, and we're there for each other. And then I got Jackson Fulmatu, who is my protege, my prodigy. I'm trying to build him up. He's a heavyweight star right now in the state of Washington. He just knocked his dude in 15 seconds on the same card as me that I won my title. So it's kind of been a three-headed monster out here. We just been training and getting after it. But it was a humbling experience, man. It's hard work. It's dedication. From I turned this. Everything went right for my last camp. I turned vegan. I wanted to try everything new.
What? All right, let's talk about this. Did you watch a Netflix show?
To be honest,
did you watch a Netflix?
I did.
Did you watch Game Changers?
Game Changers, and I changed over, and Colton and Dan Leith and all these guys, they've taken care of all of our nutrition for a while now, and there was something that wasn't working for me, and I saw this show, and I was like, hey, let me try something. Something's not working. Let me try everything. And I changed everything in my last camp. And to be honest, it worked well for me. I'm not a full-blown vegan. I'll tell you that right now.
It's unwise.
Right after my fight was over, I went back to meat, and I enjoyed myself. It didn't suit very well with my body, but I'm back in camp. I fight again in 2.5 weeks.
Who you fighting? Who you got?
I fight on January 18th in Arlington, Washington for War Promotion.
Man, come on, bro. That's a bad night to fight. You can't fight that night.
I know Conor McGregor's making.
I know it's a big fight night. Like, how am I gonna watch 2 fights at once? That's like that. That's not cool. Talk to your promoter, man. He sucks. Yeah. Who books a promotion on the same night as Conor McGregor? Hey, but let me circle back. Have you listened to the Joe Rogan podcast with the debate of the guys that made Game Changer and like another nutritionist?
No, I haven't.
You check it out. Like I'm making fun of you, obviously, but like there's validity to Game Changers and there's validity to still eating meat. There's some things you just can't get. There's some things you just can't get from plants. But I have a nutritionist because I've been dealing with some like personal health issues. And, like there've been like recommendations and, like she's like, when I say a nutritionist, I mean an actual doctor I go to the University of Texas Fitness Institute with an actual doctor. And no, check that out. There's some really good things there. When you said vegan, I mean, you opened yourself up. You know, you got to take a ding for being vegan. You know, even though Danzig was a really good vegan fighter, you know, and you know, they're like saying like
I mean, a lot of people are. Look at the
they're saying the Diaz brothers are, but they're really not. They're like you. They're part-time. They're not fully committed. But hey, super excited about you fighting a war. That's going to be great. It sucks that it's on the 18th because that's a already stacked card. So I'm going to have to like figure out the stream, hopefully the timing, because they're both West Coast promotions. I'll be able to figure it out, or Pacific time. We're going to have to wrap here in a few. But how do you feel about the future of fighting in the Army? Are you optimistic? Do you feel good? Like, because it seems like, one, it's a leadership issue, right? There's ebbs and, you know, there's peaks and valleys, it ebbs and flows. That, you know, you'll have a leader that's like super proactive, wants to get in there, wants to bang it out. And then you have guys and gals that are like, you know, it's like, it's a budget thing, but I really think we should focus our money on track pads. That's what I absolutely loved about Fort Lewis, is it was like they weren't concerned about the vehicle, even though the Striker was the newest, coolest vehicle on the planet. You know, being at Fort Hood, everything was about the vehicle. It was not about the man. It was about the vehicle, and it was tough, you know, to be about the man when your leadership only care about the motor pool. And I loved Fort Lewis, where they were the man first. You know, cavalry, it's obviously horse, weapon, soldier, right? In the Striker Brigade, it was like warfighter, platform, delivery. And I love that. And so it's great to be on a base where you're able, you know, you have leadership that kind of focus in on that, and everyone around you in terms of culture is focused on that, being, you know, 1st Special Forces Group, you know, 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, of course, you know, 1st Brigade, Ghost Brigade, which hurts. It always pains me to say that, because we were actually the 3rd Brigade, 2nd Infantry Division, but we were the 1st Striker Brigade, and that's why they became 1st. Anyway, but like Ghost, named after our unit in the 1st Iraq. But anyway, I digress. But are you optimistic about it?
I mean, like I've always said, you know, I seriously think that the big problem is people don't want to put in the legwork, the hard work to build. That's the thing. Like, I heard you say a lot about budget. You know, when I came to JBLM, they relinquished the installation combatives program from 7th Infantry Division, and they made 1st Brigade and 2nd Brigade come up with their own combatives program. And the very thing that I did was, you know, I'm sure you've seen and followed, is I built a facility from ground up on my own dime. Ain't nothing in my facility right now that is paid for by the Army here on Joint Base Lewis McChord. All of it came either out of my own pocket, or, you know, from other programs that are no longer programs today. So, you know, I don't take no for an answer. You know, I'm going to continue. And that's one of the reasons why I'm successful here at JBLM, is because I took a program, I put my own funding, my own efforts, everything, and I built and established this like I was taught and trained to do. And now the chain of command sees how successful it has become, and now the backing and support is there. And now they say, okay, Sergeant Rapoza, we see what you're doing. We see the accomplishments. We see the success rate of soldiers coming in, getting certified. Now the checkbook is open, you know, and now they're starting to, you know, open up the checkbook and backfill, you know, all the equipment that I have in the current facility. And, it all comes to, building. Like, I took Joint Base Lewis McChord this year to the 2019 Lacerda Cup. Yeah, we finished second as a team, unfortunately. But I had 6.
Second?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that you're like, well, you're the first loser, but you're like, dude, that's a huge accomplishment.
That Lacerda Cup should have came home to 7th ID, but that's nor here nor there. But, I had 6 All-Army champions.
Bitter.
I had 2 runner-ups, That's the first time it's been done at Joint Base Lewis McChord in a long time. I took 8 competitors out there and had 6 All-Army champions and 2 runner-ups. Like, that in itself, is an accomplishment. And, not to take away anything from the competitors and their hard work and dedication, but, everywhere I go, it's been embedded in me from when me and Colton used to teach 3rd CR teams at Fort Hood. We breed champions, and that's what our mindset is. And we want to build the best of the best hand-to-hand combatants in the Army, both on the mats and off the mats from a leadership standpoint. And that's my primary goal. And I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to continue to get the support that I get, no matter where I go. And, we got some things in store that might take my journey and my endeavors somewhere else other than Joint Base Lewis McChord. But, wherever I'm at, that's what I enforce, and that's what I train to do. And I train individuals to be the best that they can possibly be. And I don't care if you got day 1 talent or you got no talent. We're going out there, and hard work is always going to beat talent no matter what.
Okay. Hey, you're definitely driven. You haven't got where you have been, Aaron, without being driven and focused. But also, you mentioned earlier at the start of the show, as we wrap up here, we talked a little bit about Mighty Oaks, and you've talked about kind of what you've done with trying out being a vegan and doing that, and how it's changed and helped. But how has Mighty Oaks helped you? What did that program do for you? And what do you think the impact that has had on not only your life personally, your service as a soldier, and even your combatives piece?
Man, Mighty Oaks was a great experience for me. Not only did I get to meet, great ambassadors and people of great culture and things that they want to envision and put out there for opportunities for young people like myself that got to go through the program. I got to meet Toby, I got to meet Chad. One of my dear friends, Bruce Stewart, is, Pastor Bruce. He still contacts me, at least once a month, and, we stay in contact with each other. So, just being able to be surrounded by great people, with the vision that they have in helping others. Back then I was a young private first class that got to sit in a room full, of prior enlistees and got to hear stories and just things that people have encountered in life. And it just made me feel humbled and fortunate, to be where I'm at today. And, aside from that, it's always risen my spiritual beliefs and brought me closer, to God and whatnot, and following my dreams and aspirations of fighting and everything that I do in my life. Made me a better father, a better soldier, leader, and just being afforded that opportunity and just being around those great individuals helped influence me in so many ways. So it was a great experience.
Awesome.
I would like to do it now. I would like to run it back now that I'm more mature, as far as the military, and I'm a little bit older. But yeah, I never took that opportunity for granted. I have my sword right back here in my case.
Man. I love it.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. It'll forever be embedded as one of my ventures and things that I got to do in my life. So it was great.
That's awesome. You know, Chad is a good friend of the show. We've had him on here a number of times, and it's great to hear. Obviously, Toby fanboys him up like he does everybody, but you know, to hear
that is a good guy.
It's only because we're boys.
Yeah, to have someone else talk about what Robo has done and how he's.
That's why we have the show on Thursdays.
Yeah.
So I can fanboy man love all my boys.
You do it. I never noticed we do it on Thursdays. That's a good point. That's why we do it. I thought it was because you had schedule conflicts. That's because you think it's okay to man love. There. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, one more thing though.
Yeah.
Big shout out, you know, to the third SEAC, Sergeant Choctaw. He was able to come by my facility, which was a great thing. He's another ambassador of hand-to-hand combat, and you know he's a great individual, leader, mentor.
Yeah.
And he got to speak to my class that had a lot of officers in my class for the first time. So it was great having him come around and be able to kind of give us an insight on today's relevance and real world stuff that's happening. He got to interact with the soldiers, and you know, that guy, he loves to be there and interact with everybody and get people's feedback and get everybody involved. So it was awesome to get to have him come by the facility and be able to sit down and chat. And you know, now that he's here local, I'm sure I'll be seeing him a lot more around. So it was an honor to have him come by.
But I mean, you're absolutely fortunate, and you know, we talked about leadership. I know we got a wrap here, but we talked about leadership really quickly. When the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is more famous than the Joint Chief himself, and he's famous because he's like, fuck ISIS, I'm going to kill you with an e-tool. Pardon the language. I apologize. My daughter's listening. I'm a jerk. But no, like, that was his thing. Like, he's like, we're going to kill you, and if we have to kill you with the e-tools, we will. And that, when you have leadership that understand, like, that's how the fight progresses. And, you know, like, Sergeant Major Troxel is an amazing American, probably the greatest SEAC of all time. It doesn't matter who, and I know he's only number 3, but, you know, I feel sorry for number 4. That poor guy's coming in. He's Air Force, and he's got to follow up, you know, Troxel. Like, talk about screwed.
Well, like Sergeant Major Troxel said, I mean, he got a heavy pipe hitter out there too. You know, you got General Milley out there.
I don't know. The Air Force guy could be a PJ. I don't know anything about him. If he's a PJ,
he was our old commander at Fort Hood, and he's
solid.
Yeah,
he's
ambassador
solid.
of Combatives as well. So we're hopefully
we're
I'm just saying, those are hard shoes to fill. Like, is the guy gonna get, you know, like 1,000 e-tools mailed to him so that they can be autographed? Probably not. You know, like,
I got what
there it is. Like,
number 670.
That's awesome. All right, man. Hey, Aaron, awesome having you on.
Yeah.
You know, dude, I couldn't be prouder of you, man.
Thanks.
Snap. There's the strap. I couldn't be prouder of you, my man. You know, like, I got introduced to you, you know, like you said, like, you were an E2, maybe E3 at the time I met you. You are now a staff sergeant, soon to be promoted.
I've been there a few times.
you did this, but all good leaders have. Troy knows all about that. No. I might know a little bit about that, but no, like, man, I'm proud of you. I think you're in the right place. I'm excited for your future. Everybody tune in on the 18th of January. We'll put the link up here in a little bit to where you can learn about war, you know, so you can watch that fight. But no matter what, in life, it's important that you have skills. It's important that, you know, I have 2 daughters, and for me, knowing how to fight from your back is important for them. For me, knowing that is important for them. As a kid that didn't grow up wrestling because it wasn't a big sport in Canada, we were too busy, you know, trying to figure out how to punch each other while on ice. Like important skill sets, knowing that stuff is good. You're doing a great thing for the military. You're doing a great thing for the community. And I'm proud of you, man. I from where you were to where you are now, like you are a grown man. I love you. I'm proud of you. God bless you. I'm glad that we were able to squeeze you in. Unpaid producer Rob, made it happen.
Opportunity. Hey, like Tim says though, you can never beat somebody that's physically fit, that can shoot and can fight. It's what it is.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a perishable skill. You got to hone those skill sets, and you'd be fine in the world.
That's it. Awesome. Well, hey, Aaron, again, like Toby said, thank you so much, brother. It's good to have you on. Good to see you tonight and talk to you and hear a lot about the program that I think a lot of those that aren't in the military probably don't know much about, that are listening and watching our show. But even those that have been in, that maybe have only been in the last few years, probably haven't seen or heard a lot about it either, unless they've been in the right places or with the right command element. So I'm glad you helped bring some of that. And bring some of that visibility, and maybe get a few of them to start asking some questions of their own local leadership to say, hey, when can we lay off of the ultimate frisbee and maybe go check out and do some combatives? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But all right, man.
Stay tuned. 2020 Lacerda Cup, Joint Base Lewis McChord. We're coming.
All right, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
another run. But hey, it was an honor. I appreciate you guys. Nice meeting you. Toby, likewise, man. It was great catching up with you. And thank you guys for having me on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for giving us some of your Thursday night, and stay in touch with us. Keep us up. Keep Toby up on. We'd love to have you back on, especially after we hear how you do on the 18th.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy.
All right, Jeff. You guys have a good one.
Good night, Aaron. Have a good one, man. All right, everybody. There we go. Let me bring up Toby. I got to fix some of Toby's video here real quick. And Toby, while I do that, why don't we? What you want to get into here, buddy? We got a little bit.
Couple things. I know we don't have a ton of time, but we went a little bit over there with my man, so I'll make this brief. A couple things I want to talk about, and I first and foremost, I really want to talk about our guys working hard over the holidays, Oconus and Conus, and the reason I say both is because we had a little storming of the embassy, and everyone knows that embassies are under the jurisdiction and military protection of the State Department, as well as the men's department of the Navy, of the United States Marine Corps, and people forget that we have this thing called DRF, and there's a couple different acronyms that go with that, but a quick battalion of pipe hitters, meat eaters.
2nd of the 504th, 1st Brigade,
that's
82nd
right.
Airborne.
That's right. 2nd of the 504th out of Fort Bragg, the 82nd Airborne, went wheels up on a holiday to go handle some business.
Yeah.
I've been watching media, and I've been watching people's response to it, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't get offended. I'm not a snowflake. I got extremely thick skin, so I don't really care about some of the spin on this stuff. Like, it doesn't bother me when people say stupid things like, the militia decided to, say that they proved their point, therefore they are going to leave on their terms. Like, that's actually not what happened. Like, you can report that in the news. You can say all that you want about it, and you can try to do this some guys did a thing one time, kind of.
Oh,
headline.
Did you see the Washington Post reported they were mourners? They were sad Iraqi mourners that stormed the embassy. They weren't terrorists. They were mourning. They just came from the funeral.
An Iranian-backed militia group where the leader, the very leader of this militia group, actually had time in the White House under a previous administration, but they went in there with violent intent. They tried to set fire to it. The Marines, the State Department, and all those affected there showed tremendous restraint.
Yeah.
in my mind, I was waiting for like a Samuel L. Jackson movie, right? Rules of Engagement. Like I was like, oh, here we go. Like this dude's just gonna put the saws up and the 240s up on the concrete, and we're gonna get some work in, boys.
Yeah.
Like
I was waiting to see a Ma Deuce getting sandbagged in on the rooftop. That's all I'm saying.
That's what I was like.
I want to see an E3 up
Samuel
there.
L. Jackson movie before
I want to
you know
see
it.
a Lance Corporal up there with a headspace timing gauge. It's like click, click, click. Yeah, I got it right there.
But no headspace and timing.
Nope.
No, let's change the regulator on the 240 or the, our men and women did a tremendous job, showed tremendous restraint. We brought in, like a rotary wing craft, and there used to be this great billboard outside Fort Hood, and this was back in the 90s, and it was like a big picture of an Apache, and it was like, keeps the peace in an intimidating kind of way. I was like, yeah, truer words are never spoken. Because that Apache got in the air, threw some flares out, and all of a sudden they're like, "Well, we proved our point. Let's retreat. All this camping gear and all the stuff that we brought that we thought we were going to bed down here tonight. We take that back."
But again, here's something I want to real quick. I want to hit on something that the media did not cover, but you kind of hit on. A lot of restraint. We just dropped flares, benign, non-lethal flares.
That's it.
We could have easily went in with the chain gun rolling and tell the gunner to keep his head on the swivel left and right. But we went and dropped some flares and said, let's see if that pushes them away. That's a difference. That's what kind of military we have. We would have been totally justified to go in and smoke those dudes breaking in on sovereign territory.
No, like that's why you were nailing the nail on the head, my dude. This is exactly why I wanted to bring this up. God, the people on the ground in Iraq, when that went down, that they were like, let's bring people in. Let's see what's playing out. Let's look at this. We have the ability to kill hundreds of people right now. Like, that's not what we need to do. Let's test the resolve. Oh, we got a bird veil. Here we go. Some flares go out, and all of a sudden, after they clean their man dresses, they're like, we're gonna retreat. We're gonna pack up our camping supplies. We're gonna make this great political speech like we had a victory. They were chanting, "We burned them. We burned them." Like that was about as effective as someone on Twitter burning somebody. Burning a concrete building isn't really that effective. And then within seconds of what's going on, reports come back and a decision is made. And this is what I really want to talk about, decision making. There was an amazing decision-making process that happened on the ground by leaders that evaluated the effectiveness of the threat that they were being faced with and met it with the appropriate force. And the force that they met it with was, like you said, non-lethal. They talked about some shots ringing out, and they talked about some of that, but it sounds like that was like, harassing fire and,
right.
irresponsible fire by, like this protest group. This protest group, we're going to call them protest group because that's how they're being identified, is a militia that is angry about getting bombed for doing like militia shit.
For killing one of our contractors and wounding some of our folks.
For doing like militia shit, right? So they're basically organized insurgents. They got caught up, did some insurgent shit. They got caught up by paying the toll for it. And then, they like tried to complain about it. They marched. They set fire to some guard shacks, and they got very lucky that they lived. Yeah. Because the reality is we have like people maybe not remember that or remember this, but we have like close to 5,000 troops on the ground in Iraq. We got a brigade plus of value on the ground. DOD, a brigade plus on the ground. And, like when you think about the restraint that was shown, we could have killed thousands of people yesterday.
Plus a large number of assets, personnel and assets in quick reaction mode all in theater, right? The Marines came out of Kuwait, right? All in theater in other places, ready to respond.
Yeah.
Some of those assets can move it at the speed of sound and be there to take
So,
care of
like,
things.
continuing on with decision-making process. So all of those decisions were great. And then here in our capital, in our main headquarters, a decision-making process was made. Decision gates were faced. They were passed through. Orders were given. After threat was evaluated, orders were given. And boom, we got a battalion of high-speed death from the sky en route.
Yep.
And it happens like this. And the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm not a Benghazi drum beater. Like, for everyone listening in or tuning in, watching, I don't want this to sound like I'm like, Chris Pronto Tonto that's like, hey, I got to beat this drum and remind everybody that, something bad happened. Like, I'm talking about leadership and decision making. This is what happens with good leadership. Good leadership on the ground tells good leadership in an office what to tell good leadership in an Oval Office what to do. Even if it's not even good leadership in the Oval Office, they tell them, hey, this or her, this is what needs to happen. This is the appropriate response, and this is how we're handling it, and this is how you can support us and make sure that this all works out great. Within moments, that's how it goes down, and that's how it should be. And I'm super proud of the guys that were sitting there on DRF. Instead of getting a holiday weekend, they were like, all right, here we go. I feel bad for them because they're going to go all the way over there and they're going to get bummed out because they're going to spend 30 days disappointed.
Yeah. Rolling out on New Year's Eve.
They're not getting DRF'd and like flying to Montana to fight wildfires.
No, they're not.
So,
but I want to cover something late breaking that's happening while we were on air. And this will probably, we don't know what's going to come of this. And in fact, nobody does, but I don't know if you heard, Toby, but there were 7 killed at the Baghdad airport today after some rockets hit. And it just came out. They confirmed that the Iranian leader of the Quds Force was one of those killed, in addition to some other Iranian leaders who apparently were coming into Iraq to visit or do whatever they were. So obviously they are already they're spinning up the PR machine over there and blaming us for rocketing the Baghdad airport. I'm not going to say it's not us. It doesn't really kind of fit our MO. We're not going to, do that kind of unless it was very precision and we knew that target was underground. But I will say that it seems surprising we would take such action. I think it's much more palatable and believable that that forces in country, pro or anti-Iranian or whatever, but probably anti-American, rocketed the airport and probably didn't realize their dudes were coming on the ground. But right now we're being blamed. There's a lot of stuff spinning up, and reports are that the White House and DOD are like going through every scenario because we just took out some top dudes in Iranian military, or some dudes just got taken out, and we are being blamed for that. That's happened in the last hour. So we'll see where that goes.
If we just took out some top dudes from the Iranian military, if you're using the word blame versus congratulated, you and I should probably talk about our stances in life. Bye.
Well,
like, but I don't know. Like, I don't even know. Like, I gotta pull it up to look at it. But if we just took out some Iranian leadership, like.
If we did, we should be congratulating. But I mean, I can't see us, and this is just my opinion, I can't see us doing a rocket attack on a civilian target inside of a country that we are currently occupied and supposedly helping and doing all those things, unless it was a precision like we do when we hit them in Pakistan and stuff. Unless that the UAV was over top and it knew right where it was going after. They had confirmed 3 different ways that the target was who it was, and we literally took them out. It just doesn't seem like our MO, right? I think we would do it a lot of other ways besides throwing a rocket out. Even the most skilled one in such a populous area, because like I do, when we do that in Pakistan or Somalia or whatever, or Syria, it's wide open desert. We are very cognizant of civilian casualties and other secondary effects. And that just doesn't seem like we may roll in a D-force in there. We may roll some boys in there and take them out. But it's just not our MO to throw a rocket. But you know what? Crazy shit can happen.
But here's the thing. Like, don't mess with our embassies because it'll end badly for you.
It could be. That's what I'm saying. It could be really.
Like, this is a different different decision-making process now.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, if you want to touch sovereign American soil and you want to mess with Americans, like you want to protest your own country, great. You want to do stupid things in your country, cool. You're taking money from us and you want us to help you with something and we're there and then you bite the hand. Hey, bro, like
we have new leaders in place that don't do things by everyone's playbook. So I'm saying it could be.
No, like what's that line? You know, like Melvin or whatever he is, the giraffe from Madagascar. Like his famous words are like, "Don't bite the hand, bro.
Yeah,
don't bite the hand."
So we don't know. Maybe we'll never know. But if we did do it, congrats. Dead tangos are always the best tangos. So, and if we didn't do it and they did it to themselves, well, that's karma. And somebody who hit the switch is gonna be strung up. But anyways, that just happened. We'll see how that affects things as we look at troops coming back into theater. And the PR machine spinning on the enemy side and all that stuff. But, anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. That's some late breaking of current events. But, yeah, what a 2020 start, huh, Aaron?
I love it, man. It is, like I said at the beginning of the show, I know we got to get going here, but like I said at the beginning of the show, I absolutely love the beginning of the year because we're unified as a people. We're unified in hope. And everyone's excited. New day, new year, new me. And like a lot of people stick with it, man. I watched a young lady from the town I grew up in, Terrace, British Columbia, Carmen Viveros. Shout out to her. She got on the socials and was like, I don't like my health situation. I'm gonna lose 100 pounds in a year. And she met her goal, and she did it. She met her goal. I want to say a couple of weeks ago, but I love seeing that stuff. I love being unified by hope in each other, love for each other. The greatest issue that we have right now is we keep falling into this partisan, this tribalism, this thing where we're not appreciating each other, we're not trying to love each other, we're not trying to love ourselves. And I love the beginning of the year because we can put all that stuff aside and be like, hey man, I really, when you look at people's like New Year's resolutions, they're very profound. People are like, oh man, some are superficial and kind of cliche and lame, but for the most part, people are like, man, I really want to be a better guy. I want to be a better woman, a husband, wife. I want to be a better dad, a better mom. I want to take care of myself better. I want to be a better member of my community. And when you see those things and you realize like they're coming from a place of sincerity,
right?
They're genuine, and I just love it. And I love going to the gym and not being able to work out because every machine's busy. I'm like, cool, I'll come back in 3 weeks when some of you don't want to see all the freedom that's on the other side of hard work. But
was it that way today? Was it busy or?
Yeah. But the good news is I looked around at the gym and there were so many familiar faces. It's the same people that are just doing themselves and they're just doing longer workouts. And but hey man, I love you. I'm so happy for your family. You guys had an awesome weekend up there in New York. I was super jealous of y'all. I love how you're able to do that stuff. I got my daughter, my youngest right now with us, and that's a reason we got a break so I can go spend quality time with her before I head out. But man, it's gonna be awesome. Great show. I love that we were able to get Rapoza on here, and I'm proud of that guy. I'm proud of you. Mesquite Creek Outfitters, Kermode Outdoor Development Group, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Veteran Outdoors. Oh, a shout out to Aaron Lulin, my man.
Dude, he's blowing up your watch party. I went and checked out your watch party, and he was just
12 Fox beer. Him and his battle buddy from the Army started a brewery in Dripping Springs. They use rainwater and super sustainable stuff to make.
So what you're saying is we need to go check that out next time.
Dude, we do. Yeah. We need to. I've told you before. We need to do a show from down there.
That's right. You did Dripping Springs.
Yeah. So I love 12 Fox beer. I love the guys. I love everyone involved, and they're a great family in all their partnerships. It's a wonderful family that's together. So excited to take you down there and introduce you to some of the great beers that they got. They brew them and they get drank so fast that they run out, and they're like constant. They had to improve their system, so they could do more production just to satisfy people on the weekend. They also make great sandwiches. One of the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had in my life. But anyway, I digress.
All right. Okay, man. Yeah, let's cut it short. We've been going for about an hour and a half. It's been a good show. Thank you, Aaron. Great kickoff to 2020. A lot of more things coming. As we told you, Rob, our unpaid producer, is just crushing it and crushing us with guests, but that's okay. We got them racked and stacked, and we look forward to a great 2020. Toby, good to see you, brother, in this new year, and hope to see you here in a few weeks, maybe sometime. So with that being said, all right, everybody, have a good night. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for letting us in your homes, in your ears, and on your screens. And we will see you next Thursday evening here on Stu and the Nunn. That is January 9th. Yeah, next Thursday evening, January 9th, 8 o'clock here on Stu and Nunn. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Stu and the Nunn Radio. We hope you enjoyed your time with us because we have enjoyed sharing our time with you. Be sure to check out stewandthenunn.com in addition to asking us questions and interacting with us on our Facebook page and Twitter. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern here on Spreaker and Facebook Live. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Warrior Media Solutions, BlueHammer.com, Veteran Outdoors, Graybeard Publishing, and Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. Thank you again, and have a good night.